name is Aksik, aka Annika, and today we are carrying on with my first ever series of all my coloring pages completed and also all the WIP-s I have left in my books. And this episode is going to be either first or possibly the only, depending on how fast I get through it, about my full-sized square books. They would usually be about 10 to 10 inches, which is 25 centimeters to 25 centimeters. I have one that is supposed to be bigger. It would be, I think, 12 to 12, but I still included it in this full-sized kind of a lineup. Okay, let's carry on with the books I have without further ado. See which one we start with. Okay, so I have the Bridgerton coloring book. Read the books. Some of them are very fun, some of them are less fun, and quite a few of them are quite problematic by now because they're written, I think, 90s or the 2000s. But the book is based on the TV series, and of course, the TV series being as huge as it is, you're probably all familiar with it. The book itself is of fantastic quality. What annoys me about this book is that the art is fantastic, yet they don't really put the artist's name either on the cover, not the front. To find the artist's name, you have to go to the very back, and there you find out that the artist is called Jackie Oakley. And I wish she would publish more books because her art is gorgeous. The book is on very nice paper, nice white paper, thick, does not love water media, meaning if you actually want to use watercolors in a bigger area, it'll sink through immediately. This is my test page, and you can see how it's gone through, because the moment you put it down, it sinks in. You can't spread it. There's, barely any sizing to this paper. So to get it spread like that, you have to get paper soaking wet in this area, which is also the reason it's buckled as badly as it is. And it wouldn't have buckled at all if I had gotten even the whole page wet evenly, or if I had let that possibly dry naturally. But no, as impatient as I am, I took my heat gun to it, and that buckles paper more drastically. That's something to keep in mind. Even if you want to kind of rush up the drying of the pages, that will warp the page more if you dry it fast. But then I tried it with watercolor pencils, just for the fun of it. There's no shading there, just in a kind of layer of watercolor pencils, one layer, and they did go through. So you can use, I presume, Inktense and watercolor pencils. I wasn't super sparing with water or anything, but that of course means that you can only use watercolor or watercolor pencils in smaller areas, because in the bigger areas it wouldn't really work. It dries too fast, you would get kind of a harsh lines. So there's of course some bleed through here, but it wouldn't really bother me, because these bars would need to be, strong patterns that would be very easy to disguise if I wanted to do that spread, which I can't really see myself doing much, but the option is there if I want it. I only have one really finished page here, which is Lady Danbury, who would be one of my favorite characters, at least in the TV series. In the books, she could leave you pretty ambivalent. She was a cool character, but she wasn't nearly as prevalent as she is in the TV series. And I tried to kind of capture how the actress actually looked, and I think I managed to get it pretty all right. The whole thing is done because I couldn't do the watercolors. I put gray acrylic wash, I diluted acrylic wash down here, and then there's no pencils here. I just added a little bit of detailing with gray water-based markers quickly. So, this background was actually completed very, very quickly. It's just, kind of a gray, half opaque acrylic wash, and then some details put in with water-based markers, and there you go. Kind of this blurry background behind her. And she also her face had acrylic wash, pretty sure. and some part of it, dress, I think, was water-based markers, which you can see from here. Water-based markers do go through in this book, especially kind of juicier ones or darker colors. So if you get this book, be careful with that. So, you know, either do bases with watercolor, you know, kind of watercolor pencils or water-soluble pencils, or possibly Neocolor 2s or something like this, or acrylic wash. But yeah, markers will go through. And this one I just started with the background. I think it might have been diluted gouache or acrylic paint that I used here, because, but even that, no, it actually might have been watercolor, because, you know, you can see maybe that it's gone through in parts. So, and there's no other, I have page marked here. I have this body color planned, with colored by Maya. We picked this page between us, so this is going to be a fun challenge. And I have this WIP here, which I started, that's from the second series, I think, so Kate, and I don't remember her sister's name. Anyway, I want to do their portraits because they're both beautiful, and I put the acrylic base. This base is acrylic. It's kind of a different colors of acrylic wash, and I have kind of put the first kind of a dirty shading down with acrylic wash, and then I can go in with pencils, and that also helps me to fight the very black lines on the face. And I have this page just based with very soft acrylic wash. It's basically kind of like pastel acrylic colors diluted and then kind of washed over in a bit of a, you know, interesting gradient. I kind of like the do this uneven gradient from one color to another, kind of a, that looks cool, I think. Anyways, but you can see once again I've tried even on top of the wash water-based markers, and it has gone through. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, spent too long on that book. Ghost Shrimp, The Lost Forest. It's a bit of a trend with me that I tend to like kind of a bit of a quirky, interesting, sometimes a bit, you know, weird books. And this one probably would qualify as one of these, but I like his art. His art is fun. And you can check it out, you know, on his Instagram, Ghost Shrimp. He's fantastic. His art is fun. And I have, I think, 3 pages here. I find this book kind of quite easy to kind of navigate. This is the last page I did here. The base is just watercolor, water-based markers, just diluted kind of with a sponge, kind of haphazardly applied to the page and dab with the sponge. And then I put loads of metallic watercolor here. There's acrylic markers in the mask, you know, and all this is acrylic markers of some sort. And everything is then outlined with glitter acrylic markers as well. And it's just sparkly and, you know, kind of a bit of a mad and interesting and fun. It's one of those pages that doesn't photograph well at all, but it's actually quite fun in real life. And you can see from the base here now how the water-based markers, you know, after they've been diluted with sponge, you know, how much they went through and what it would have kind of looked like. And this one is just the watercolor-based markers. By the way, water-based markers on this book go down really smoothly. And although they do go through, as you can see on this paper, even, you know, without any application of water on top, it doesn't really matter because it's a, you know, one-sided book. So who cares really? But I also tried, you know, kind of dabbing out of interest, you know, what the look would like. I took kind of a piece of kind of washcloth, the kind of a canvas texture. It was damped and I pressed it onto the little alien and I got this kind of a fun I don't know, how close do I have to get to see it? Kind of a texture on his body, and I think it's fun, you know, kind of pre-shading. All that page, it would be really quick page to finish. It just needs a background, a tiny bit of shading on the alien, and it's pretty much done. This is a page I did finish. I actually like that one a lot. It's kind of a mandala, but not. It has alcohol marker base, and oh gosh, do I remember what pencils do I have here? Absolutely not. But fairly random pencils. Basically, I had pink, you know, it was just flat base, and then I put pencils down in kind of different colorways. You know, I used blue and orange and red, and you know, different colors here, and purples. So those leaves actually kind of look pretty cool up close. And you know, everything was done fairly fast. It was easy and fun page to finish. And then I would have put a little bit of lighter pencils at the back here to kind of create the glow, because that was dark enough, that background, that if you put the lighter pencil on top, you would get this glow effect behind the mandala. And then there's some glaze pen and some, you know, kind of a, oh, not even sure if they're acrylic glitter markers or are they just kind of glitter gel pens, but you know, a bit of this, a bit of that. Just the way, the typical way I like to work. It's a bit haphazard and grabbing everything that is around me and throw it on the page. This one is a WIP, which, oops, sorry, something fell off my marker rack there. And it's going bad. Like you can see, the watercolor, kind of a darker, heavy watercolor, does not really lay good here. I would need to do like several layers to get it down kind of smooth and flat, and I do not know if I have enough dedication. So if I decide to finish that page, I would probably go over that base with chalk pastels to even out the tones, because that's a very easy way to, like, chalk pastels work really good on the watercolor base. They go down really smoothly and smooth everything out. Of course, you know, I kind of would need to do that kind of last and then spray the page, because, you know, it would need to be pretty hefty layer of them. But yeah, that would save the sky here. But you know, I haven't gotten the mood to do it yet. The page itself is fun, and you know, maybe eventually I get to it. And this one, I think, might have been the last page. Yeah, I've done here, which is my evil Santa, I called it, who is dropping poison into the water, which is what evil Santas do, clearly. That's how they operate, in case you didn't know. And, you know, there's glitter all over the place. What I did here, that I have these clear glitter pens from Spectrum Noir, which, oh, I know it's here, but I can't. There it is. That's the clear glitter pen. It's basically just clear glitter, and it does look super pretty, but it has one bad thing about it. It spreads. It doesn't really stay in one place in your page. You put it on one place at first, and you think it's going to stay there, but you know, as you open and close, and as you know, the book sits on the shelf, next time you open the book, it's going to be everywhere. But in this case, I actually took this, got it really full, kind of by squeezing it, I got the brush really full, and I actually kind of splattered it across the sky to give this kind of a glowing or kind of a glittery effect all over the sky. And I think it came out fun. Anyways, it's a fun page, and I like how freeing these pages are. You can use whatever colors you like. You can have a pink grass and orange ground with pink, you know, shadows, and you know, the world is so quirky and so different. It's so fun to go, you know, to the town with different colors and different effects. So yeah, it's a fun book. Totally recommend if you feel like playing. Okay, so a bit more possibly popular choice here is Camilla, whose art is I love it in small doses. I do love the girls in these books. The creatures are very fun. Like, you know, whenever she draws all sorts of magical creatures or animals, they are fantastic. And I also, you know, like the girls, they are different, they're fun, although I had had to work out to figure out how to color them, because manga is usually not my style. I like these. I would love to kind of get my act together and do one big spread. But what I'm struggling with, you know, kind of this floating head thing, I'm kind of getting over it now. But no, my first instinct would almost always be kind of, and then I'm going to draw shoulders and create some sort of a body. But you know, I'm getting over it now. Kind of that's the quirk of them. Everything pretty much in this book, all the portraits are done on the acrylic wash base. So basically, I take kind of a skin colored or kind of a light acrylic paint. I dilute it with water and I put on the layer. Like on this picture, you can see the acrylic wash is already on, you know, everything here. I've started shading the leaves. That's all I've done here, you know, on her. But, you know, both Koala and herself, the hair, everything, that's acrylic wash. And I'm using acrylic wash, not watercolor, because for me anyway, I don't know, I know that many people work in these watercolors. It breaks out into little tiny kind of dark spots for me when I try to color with it in watercolor. And my publication is, where is it published? I can't even tell from here. Printed in China, so I presume they're all printed in the same place. I don't know if my edition is special or somehow, but I get the spots that kind of annoy me. I wouldn't remind them in backgrounds, but in the portraits, on the faces, they really annoy me. So, you know, I need to kind of at least that bit to do with acrylic wash. And I don't want to use, of course, markers, because, you know, they would go through. And this one, the background is done with gouache, it's regular gouache, and splattered with metallic watercolor. If you move it like this, you can see, pretty, 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 sparkly. And it's, I could swear, and I'm pretty sure, because I was kind of, when I was working it most, I was very much into Artex pencils. I still am, I like them a lot, because I discovered that they work very well on the acrylic base. You can see here, like this is acrylic base, and the Artex markers have gone down, Artex pencils have gone down really nicely on top of acrylic base. So everything is done with, you know, everything is acrylic base, the whole image, and then Artex pencils on top, and then some gel, kind of gel pens to just, I want to, you know, create that lace. With basically, I did skin color slightly darker than the face, and then went over it. I don't know if it's even visible very well on the camera. All the black lines with this lace pattern. So that was a cute picture. Another acrylic base I want to do it quite badly, but I'd like to have kind of watercolor effect around it, and I'm kind of figuring out how I'm going to do it. If I can't use actual watercolors. Another, you know, acrylic base on the faces. This is what I do. Like, I mean, if I mix acrylic base, it's almost impossible to mix exact amount for one face. So you have stuff left over. So if you want to waste it, I just go over several faces in the same book or in a couple of books. It just makes sense to me. And this is also now, this is just a base. Actually, that page would be super quick and fun and easy to finish. You know, the concept is already down. It needs a little bit of extra work, and it would be there. Acrylic base is the background is, you know, almost done. I would need to do something this dirty bit there, but other than that, it's pretty much sorted. I know I had more stuff here. Okay, yeah, that's another acrylic base. You can see here. And she's also Artex pencils on acrylic base, and I think it's only white gel pen. That's the only thing extra that is here. And it's one of my favorite gel pens, which is basically no-name Chinese gel pen that to me works on everything. This is just a background put in, and that's acrylic wash. And I was debating either I go really black but I went kind of a dark gray transparent wash instead, because I might want to actually do something with those fluffy little hearts. And it would look quite effective the way I want to do them on acrylic wash. This is also acrylic. The background is acrylic paint, and then I made my own glitter, kind of a paste from, I think it was satin glaze and loads of loose glitter. And then I basically piled it on top of it, and the thing sparkles madly. Like, it doesn't really photograph how sparkly it is, but it's really sparkly. And there's stickles in her little antlers. So, yeah, pretty sure it was Artex pencils. Do I have anything that I missed here? Another acrylic base. It's like I have so many pages here, kind of prepped and ready to go. Oh yeah, that one. Is it a griffin? Possibly. And this is now done with watercolors. This base is done with watercolors, and you can see here those kind of dots that you get with watercolors that I do. And, you know, I imagine that on the face. I don't mind them in the background like that. They kind of even look interesting. And here I put the full page, full wash down, and then I put watercolor in, and then I, with a clean brush, pulled out and cleaning the brush in between to get those rays of light behind the griffin. And I think it makes a cool background. Do I have anything else in this book that I have neglected to show you? No, that's it. And I think I have another Camilla book, which, you know, I really shouldn't. I should dedicate myself to one because I'm slow. But, you know, I like that book. I wanted that book too. And this one, I think I have 2 pages here. One is the mermaid. I think I did it for Mermaid, possibly last year or year before that. Don't remember. It's pretty sure watercolors. And I use kind of a more pastel watercolors to minimize, because pastel watercolors have white in them. So that makes them more opaque. So you get less, or don't get at all, those dots. But even, you know, then you get a little bit those dots. If you go very close, you can kind of see there's a little bit of them. But because I used kind of watercolors that had white added into them, it minimized it. And here I put them down so dark, and I actually, you know, thought dots would benefit it because it's supposed to be ground, so a little bit of texture would be good. Yeah, it's, you know, the base is done with watercolors. I don't remember what pencils there were on top, and there's some ink splattered on top to create this kind of a more bubbles effect. But yeah, I presume she's supposed to be slightly evil sea witch, but she looks pretty cute to me. And another page is this one. I have a steampunky page, which looks way better in real life than it ever has on photos and possibly on camera, because so much more subtle shading gets lost. She's fun. It's just fairly, kind of a fairly easy page. I do not remember. I think I had some like graphite tint or something like that here, and then pencils on top. And I don't remember. I think there might have been something a little bit in the hair as well, kind of the gradient, and then I did pencils on top. The face is pure pencils. And I think the bees might have been watercolor, water-based markers, base, and then a little bit of pencil, and then gel pen to make them kind of a bit fluffy, because, you know, bees, supposedly fluffy. So, do I have anything else in this book? I don't think so, but I'm going to do a quick kind of a... There might be a base or something here, but I think the bases are mostly in the other book. I really should work in this book more because I actually like it quite a bit. It's just I kind of tend to forget about this one more than the other one. Okay, so another book that I'm really big fan of and that I've seen in quite a few people's channels, but not a lot of people actually color in it much. The art is pretty distinctive and, definitely, human art, artist vision. It's based on Lord of the Rings and also Silmarillion, because there's kind of a history and kind of background and backstory stuff here as well. And there's 5 authors or 5 artists whose works are collected in there, and there's a couple of them only has like a couple of pages, and then 2 of them have majority of the pages, and the art is fantastic. Like, I really like it. I like working in that kind of a sketchy style. And this, I think, was one of my first pages, and first page in this book definitely, but one of my first pages when I started kind of coloring again. And you can tell this is one of those books now again that watercolor gives those dots, those ugly dots. And in this image, I literally discovered it while I was coloring this image. So for the dragon and for the ground, I was kind of able to use it for my advantage, because there's, the texture was good in the dragon. It actually kind of added. But, I did not want it in the sky. So I eventually ended up doing sky with gouache. And of course, back then I didn't know how to handle gouache at all. And that really shows you. The sky is bad. But, I learned. At least, I'm not saying that I'm good now, but I'm better. I'm definitely better. And this, I think, was the next thing. So I discovered that, okay, I can't work watercolors here. What can I do? Because, there's a lot of empty space in these images and I have a lot going on, and watercolor would be really beneficial. So I put down the satin glaze base, and these are my first steps on the satin glaze base ever. And that also shows, because, look at the splotchy sky here, and these clouds are definitely, there's some gouache or something opaque added to them, and not very well. And, everything is a bit kind of pale and washed out on the face. But I didn't really know how to work on that, because watercolor doesn't lay as usual onto the satin glaze base. It kind of, everything you put on top of the other layer, if you try to blend on top of already existing layer, you just wash the previous layer away. So there's only certain ways of working on it. And this one, I discovered, okay, I can blend with water-based markers directly on the satin glaze base. So I basically did most of this thing, except I think those pillars I gave some extra pencil to kind of get it deeper. But I basically did all the blending with water-based markers. I think those shields, the back, got some extra pencils as well. But, mostly it's just, all water-based marker mixed on the satin glaze base. And here I've added some kind of white stripes to kind of, give some shading to the wood. But, that kind of, it's not my best. And then I discovered the method how I like to work in it. And this is the page when I kind of learned how I like to work in it. Basically, I work in very thin layers and kind of have the thin paint, very thinned out paint. And I don't really try to blend it much at all. I basically glaze thin layers on top of other thin layers without, disturbing the paint underneath much at all, and building up that way. That means, of course, there's loads of layers on this page. I'd say there's about, well, it could be even more, but I'd say it's it's about 6 or 7 layers of watercolors, and you need to let it rest and dry in between, and then go in with another layer. It's kind of a good thing, kind of to have it on your desk, and you know, in between other things, you go in with another layer of watercolor, and you get lovely results. You get those really smooth, kind of a light effects of the trees, and you know, really smooth shading. But yeah, it's a time-consuming one, but results are nice. This one I did with oil pastels, except the bird. Everything except the bird on this page, and you know, of course, the stars, which are acrylic marker. But everything except the bird is oil pastels, and it's then sealed with satin glazing, so used as kind of a protection to keep it on the page. So you can do this and you know, nothing comes off to your hand. It's, you know, sealed. So, and I have, you know, satin glazing already down here as well. But yeah, I would definitely, you know, you need to either spray them or seal oil pastel pages. And I have something else here. I know I do. I had pages. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was quite happy with these ones. Well, I wouldn't call it a spread, but you know, technically this is a spread. Once again, now, once I learned how to work watercolors here, things became way easier for me. They're both done on the satin glaze base with watercolors, and then eventually pencils on top, but not much, no pencil, not a huge amount. And, you know, kind of just watercolor in thin layers, and you get nice effects then. Because the first layer might be splotchy, but then you add another thin layer, and things build up. And you can kind of have nice color variations. And this one is also just layers of watercolor. And then eventually I added a tiny bit of acrylic markers here to kind of make the moss a bit more interesting. And because it was very hard to do with watercolors, especially in kind of this dark scene. And then there's some pencils, you know, just dark. Basically, there's black pencil and white pencil. That's it. I don't think I have any other colors there. And that's it for that book. And I can see myself working on that more and more. The next book, also on the kind of on the quirky side book, is the Occult and Folklore coloring book by Duchess of Lore. And once again, this is kind of polarizing, because I know people who absolutely hate it, and I know people who absolutely love it. But it's very recognizable. It's distinctive. You know, it has character. It has its own face and feel. And it's fun. And of course, subject, you know, I love everything to do with mythology and folklore and fairy tales and fantasy. So of course, it's going to be, you know, very me book. This book now could be called my all book WIP, because I can see, you know, there's loads of pages which are kind of halfway like this. You know, I have put the background in here, and I feel I need to put another layer because it's a bit splotchy. You know, there's black acrylic paint here, or is it marker? Possibly marker. There's very faint, those are Chinese watercolors, kind of metallic. They look a bit like Chinese equivalent to graphic tint palette. I put kind of a thin layer of these down, because you can go on top of these with pencils if you put them down thin, and it looks cool. I can show you later on. I've used them before in this book, but you get this really kind of a muted effect. And, you know, if pencils on top, you get those nice muted scenes. And then face acrylic. And another book that if you put water onto it, it'll break into the black spots. And also water-based markers, even those, you know, can tend to go through. But, you know, in here I put so many, like, I love using different media in this one. And you can actually like tell in the beginning, there's explanation, you know, what page, you know, what every page is about, what it's depicting. And this one, I think, is supposed to be Persephone. And the background is metallic acrylic marker. And there's water-based marker in her hair, which, let me see if it has control. In this instance, actually, it hasn't. Maybe, you know, if you just put quick one layer, you know, kind of like this in stripes, it doesn't go through. And a lot of it is based a quick water-based layer and then pencils on top. And the face is acrylic, face and skin is acrylic wash and pencils on top. So shiny. Yeah, so a lot of metallic watercolor, gel pens, pretty much everything that I can think of. I tend to throw at these pages. I'm always having loads of fun in this book because I feel I can use pretty much anything, any media, and just go nuts. This is just has metallic watercolor background, and I think some acrylic brush marker. I have done the leaves base. This one is also like loads of different stuff from can I see from the back? I can't because there's another page at the back. I think there's some water-based marker here, definitely. This is watercolor, I think. No, it's acrylic wash, yeah, because I don't use watercolor in this so much. So this is all based with different acrylic washes here. This is different kind of combination of different colors of acrylic washes to get this kind of a color variations there. She is based with acrylic washes, and then there's, you know, loads of glitter gel pens. There's pencils on top of the acrylic wash, most likely Artex, because I like to use them for skin on the acrylic wash. And there's glaze pens, you know, everything is sparkly and shiny and fun. And this is Hecate, pretty sure. These are water-based markers and nothing else. I didn't even put pencils on top because I didn't feel, you know, that they needed it. They're not supposed to kind of pull much of attention anyway. Those bushes in the foreground here, you're supposed to look at her. Everything is once again on acrylic base. So though the main characters would have had acrylic base, both clothes and the faces, and the wolves had acrylic base. Sky is acrylic paint. There's metallic paint, Kuretake. Yeah, Kuretake acrylic paint in all the halos and the moons. And once again, I think it looks fun. There's some water-based marker down here, just randomly, because I had water-based marker in my hand, and why not? Here the plan is to have kind of reverse color. Black unicorn, white unicorn. But I don't know, you know, that's a big spread, you know, when I'm going to get to it. But, you know, I will. It's going to be, I think, pretty. The witch has, you know, nothing else but acrylic base on the dress and little, what are they? Bats, demons. Also have some acrylic base. Do I have anything here? No. Do I have, oh yeah, this is Linda. This is now Estonian myth. Folk tale about her carrying, she was a wife of an Estonian king, or kind of mythical king, and when her husband died, she was carrying stones to his grave, and within her apron, and then her apron ripped and the stone fell, and she was sitting on the stone and crying until there was a lake around her. And you know, that lake is now a lake next to the capital of Estonia, Tallinn. So that's the story. But the base of that now is all done, I told before, herself, and you know, those trees in the background and the birds. That Chinese watercolor that is basically answer to graphic tint. Let me get it, because... Okay, back with the paint. These are the paints. And they are these colors. You can show them like this, and then at the moment, like undiluted, they look really dark. But if you use them diluted, you get those beautiful muted colors that you can actually use pencil on top. They're not ideal because it's metallic, okay? So, you know, the pencil doesn't work on top of it like in regular watercolor. It can be a bit temperamental, but the effects are nice. And you get this slight kind of metallic sheen to it. And the ground here is your regular watercolor, and then there's gel pens, sparky gel pens. And those are kind of emulate Estonian folk patterns, the water. These faces are me practicing how to do skin with just acrylic markers. And there's another metallic marker, face done with acrylic wash. I love that spread, and once I feel like doing something repetitive, I will do the fox spread because I love foxes. Acrylic wash. Probably not will do that page. It's not one of my favorites. It's just too detailed. Kind of fiddly bits. I get very frustrated and annoyed if I have to do tiny, tiny details and a lot of them. This is another one that is kind of in the WIP status. Acrylic wash, water-based markers at the front. I want to do the sky dark. This is supposed to be the summer solstice kind of a moment, I think. And this is, I think, my favorite spread because this is supposed to be Gustav Klimt's Kiss, but you know, it's Witch with a Cat. And this is kind of supposed to kind of look like medieval Madonna, only with the cat, you know, for the cat mothers among us. And once again, you know, there's loads of different media, gel pens and water-based markers and acrylic washes on the bottom, and then, you know, everything else on top. And then these would have been, this is actually, yeah, acrylic, that's water-based, not water-based, metallic watercolor. But there's also a lot of acrylic glitter markers and metallic markers. And of course, faces are all acrylic wash with pencils on top. This one, very popular, kind of emulating very popular theme in medieval churches. There would have been those big panels with Dance Macabre, I think it's called, you know, Dance of Death, you know, that all of Memento Mori type of a thing. But I think it would look really cool finished. It's just, I need to, you know, there's a lot of stuff. You can see now water-based marker has gone through here. So I need to kind of figure out how I'm going to do, probably the acrylic again, because it's probably this blue that has gone through. That's Morana. She is Slavish goddess of winter and death, and from what I understand also rebirth. And it's once again acrylic wash, acrylic sky, and then pencils on top. There's watercolor, that metallic watercolor, there's acrylic glitter markers, you know, there's different media, and I try to kind of keep them covered because there is a lot of media on them, and because of that, you know, they're going to transfer to each other and things get very dirty. There's some acrylic washes here and some metallic watercolor, color shifting one on the glow of those candles and her halo. That's Saint Bridget. I kind of plan to do her eventually. What else? Definitely more pages here. Oh, this book is going to take on most of my video this time. Yeah. And once again, I'm doing the face. This face is now, I think there's a tiny bit of pencil added, but it's mostly done with the acrylic brush markers. I was testing if I can, you know, do that, and yes, I definitely can. So you can see, you can do skin with acrylic brush markers, and it takes a fraction of time than it would take otherwise. And this is Welsh tradition, if I only remembered its name now. Oh, Mari Lid. I don't know exact pronunciation. My Welsh is even worse than my English. But yeah, once again, acrylic base, loads of different glitter markers, gel pens, acrylic markers on top, and Artex, pretty sure Artex pencils. I use Artex pencils in this book a lot. And she's Saint Lucia from Scandinavian tradition, you know, with the candles on her head at Christmas time, carrying her eyes as per original myth, because she was one of the martyrs. She, I think, blinded herself to escape some nasty guy's attention. So yeah, acrylic wash, pencils on top. These are, I think they were actually they're Spectrum Noir metallic paint markers, and those are kind of pure metallic. They're kind of shiny, not glittery, they're pure metallic, but they will go through the paper pretty easily, so you know, something to be careful about. They give really nice effect, really shiny metallic. There's acrylic base here, and that's it. Wow, that took a while. Okay, let's do one more book, and then I think I'm going to split this video. Okay, this is now the book I got just only recently, and it's by well, it's not by John Bauer, it's based on his art, because John Bauer was tragically killed in the beginning of of 20th century. Well, I think it was 20s or 30s when he died in a boat accident. But I really like his art. He illustrated a lot of kind of Scandinavian folk tales and fairy tales, compilations and books. And it's kind of a dark and earthy and, you know, kind of supernatural and natural at the same time. Absolutely adore it. So I did my first test here, and this is done 95% with watercolors, because I wanted kind of, he used watercolors mainly and a little bit of gouache. I think that's pretty much all he used on most of his works, and definitely in that work. And I picked that mainly because it was last page, and you know, I wouldn't have ruined loads of the book if something had leaked or gone bad. But I first wet the whole page, absolutely soaked it, and did the first layer the way I like to make it. I kind of make this wash, and then I kept building in layers like I do in the Tolkien book, only I didn't have any satin glazing here. I just wanted to work on regular paper. And you can see the other page, nothing went through, and that page was like, I literally flooded it. Not just a little bit of water, it was wet through and through, and absolutely nothing went through. You can see it's clean as a whistle. So this paper is fantastic for watercolors. But if you try water-based markers here, I tested here on this page, just out of curiosity, I put water-based marker, kind of a scribble onto these trees, and then, you know, kind of went on top with water brush to see what they think of me, and they thought many bad things, like fully true. Of course, it does happen with most of the papers. Like, this is the same pretty much as if you do really heavy you know, water on top or water-based markers like this, it will go through. Just the same surety as it is with alcohol markers. There's nothing to be done about it. But the book itself is absolutely gorgeous. The illustrations are interesting and fun, and whoever translated his works into the line art did a good job. I would probably like, you know, to use some works in the same kind of a very close to his style, because I kind of, at the end of it, I went in tiny bit with light fast pencils, like on his face, and, you know, and a little bit of white ink here. I would probably like to try, you know, a lot of in his style, but then also kind of use, you know, kind of full fun saturated colors here to see, you know, how these would look like. But yeah, it's just fantastic. It's beautiful. I want to do this page soon. It's gonna be fun. And you know, there's so many, like I want to do this one, and there's loads of pages here I want to do. I want to do this one. I pretty much, you know, most of the pages I look at, I would like to do. Okay, it's been a while now, and it's probably a good idea to make 2 a little bit shorter videos than 1 super long video, just not to try your patience. So this is it for today. I'm keeping the next file for another video, which will be with you soon. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening or morning or day, whatever the time is in your corner of the world. Hope to see you soon on my channel again, and bye bye.